In a universe where compassion is scarce and alliances are mere myths, a dying species finds a glimmer of hope from the most unexpected source: humans. What would you do if your family's survival hinged on the mercy of enigmas? Stay till the end to uncover breathtaking moments of sacrifice, heroism, and a promise that could change the fate of galaxies. Will this newfound unity between man and alien redefine destiny? If you want to dive into real stories of parallel realities every day, in enigmatic, technological worlds that are completely different from our planet, subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Well, let's go. In the black abyss of space, the once thriving planet of Helianth was now a war-torn shell. Murlock's heart hammered in his chest, every beat echoing the relentless assault of the Krill THX warships. These enormous vessels, with their metallic exoskeletons and ominous red lights, descended upon Helianth like a plague, raining down a torrent of laser fire and obliterating the serene landscapes one by one. Debris scattered like dying stars in the planetary atmosphere, each piece a fragmented memory of the world they had known. Murlock, a young Zorian with pale blue skin and piercing emerald eyes, pushed through the chaos, guiding his family's shuttle towards the only escape route left. His mother, Irina, seated beside him, was a beacon of calm amidst the turmoil. Her long silver hair, braided with luminescent threads, spoke of her wisdom and resilience. As the shuttle's engines roared to life, Murlock cast one last glance back at the panoramic viewport, capturing the melancholic image of Helianth's destruction. Their shuttle, an antiquated model held together by faith as much as by metal, soared into the heavens, narrowly dodging fragments of their shattered home. The spacecraft trembled under the strain of escaping the planet's gravity, the metallic groans intermingling with the distant clamor of destruction below. In the back of the shuttle, Zoran, Murlock's father, lay motionless. His once vibrant violet skin was now pallid, marred by wounds inflicted during the initial Krill assault. Blood trickled from a jagged gash across his torso, staining the gauzy fabric of his traditional Zorian attire. Murlock's hands were a blur, dancing across the control panel as he activated the shuttle's stealth systems. "We just need to get out of their radar," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. As they escaped the immediate battle zone, a fleeting moment of tranquility enveloped the cramped cockpit. However, it was swiftly shattered by the stark reality of their situation. Despite the vastness of space, despite the seemingly endless darkness that surrounded them, hope was scant. Murlock began broadcasting distress signals on all known frequencies, utilizing every ounce of his technical prowess. The messages launched into the void, carrying pleas for help, for sanctuary, but they were met with overwhelming silence. Galactic neighbors, once thought to be allies, now turned a deaf ear as the Zorian family drifted powerless. Irina's eyes shimmered with tears she refused to let fall. "Keep sending the signals, Murlock," she urged softly, her voice a mixture of resolve and desperation. "There has to be someone out there willing to listen." Hours turned into what seemed like an eternity. The shuttle floated aimlessly, a solitary speck against the vast tapestry of starlight. A new dread began to creep in, one of isolation, of abandonment. Every flicker of a distant star seemed like a potential savior. But as they dimmed away, so too did their hope. Just as despair was beginning to tighten its hold, the dashboard blinked, a soft chime breaking the oppressive silence. Murlock's heart skipped a beat as he scrutinized the incoming transmission. The source was unexpected, almost unbelievable. An Earth ship named Resolve had picked up their signal and was responding. The Resolve? Irina's brow furrowed, the name sounding foreign and yet carrying a promise of hope. A human vessel? Murlock's fingers danced over the controls, acknowledging the transmission. The reply was laden with humanitarian intent. "This is Captain Marcus Reynolds of the Earthship Resolve. We have received your distress call. "Hold tight, help is on the way." As relief washed over them, Murlock couldn't help but notice the stark difference between the authoritative, confident tone of Captain Reynolds and the apathetic indifference they had faced from other civilizations. For Murlock, it sparked an ember of hope. Resolute but vulnerable, the Zorian family clung to this lifeline amidst the cosmic expanse. As the Resolve adjusted its trajectory towards their coordinates, the dread of the inert shuttle seemed to dissipate, replaced by an anticipation laced with cautious optimism. Would this human vessel be their salvation? Could people from a planet they knew so little about truly offer the aid they so desperately needed? The stars seemed to blur as the shuttle waited, the stillness once more eroding patience and raising silent, unvoiced questions. The faces of Zoran, Irina, and Murlock were trapped in the glow of the console, each of them a portrait of concern and hope. It was then that Murlock decided to scan for potential threats. His heart sank at the discovery. Far in the background, the distinct silhouettes of Krill THX warships loomed, their colossal forms unmistakable. Engaged in their relentless pursuit, the Krill had not forgotten their prey. The Resolve was headed straight into a web of imminent danger. Murlock adjusted the frequency and sent a hurried warning transmission to the Resolve. The message was simple but urgent. "Beware of the Krill THX warships. You must tread carefully." The Resolve responded with acknowledgement, its calm tone in stark contrast to the urgency of the situation. By now, the Earth vessel had entered visual range, a beacon of silver and blue, streamlined and designed for both agility and endurance. Resolve mirrored its name, embodying a promise to those it sought to aid. As the Resolve drew closer, Irina tended to Zoran, wiping sweat from his furrowed brow, whispering soothing words in their native tongue. She was the pillar of their family, unyielding even in the face of galactic chaos. Her demeanor was a stark representation of the indomitable spirit of the Zorian people. Murlock initiated the docking procedures, a delicate maneuver given the circumstances. The console screen outlined the protocol, the auto-alignment systems engaging as the shuttle prepared to latch onto Resolve. His fingers were tense on the controls but steady, compelled by the stakes involved. Then, out of the void, Captain Reynolds' face appeared on the screen. He was a man of swarthy complexion, his gaze sharp with determination. His presence emanated an aura of steadfast leadership, a beacon of confidence amidst their uncertainty. "Murlock, this is Captain Reynolds. We're aligning our docking bay now. Prepare for transfer." "Understood, Captain," Murlock replied, his voice betraying both relief and trepidation. In moments, the two ships connected seamlessly, metal meeting metal with an audible clank that echoed throughout the shuttle. As the airlocks cycled open, a small team from the Resolve entered, led by Dr. Amanda Rowe, an experienced medic with a sharp intellect and compassionate eyes. She was flanked by Lieutenant Henry Shaw, a steadfast figure donning the Earthship's uniform, his presence both reassuring and authoritative. Without wasting a second, in the dim glow of the ship's bridge, Captain Marcus Reynolds surveyed the small consoles and blinking lights that represented the Resolve's only hope of success. His grizzled face, furrowed with years of experience and countless close shaves with death, told a story of resilience that the rest of his devoted crew mirrored in their every action and glance. Resolve, currently floating amidst a sea of stars, seemed almost insignificantly small against the pitch-black backdrop of the universe. Yet, the looming threat of the Krill THX warship was a shadow that dwarfed even the cosmic vastness, sending shivers down the spines of Resolve's crew. Captain Reynolds knew they had precious little time to act, lest Murlock and his family be consumed by the vast emptiness of space or fall into the ruthless clutches of the Krill. Captain Reynolds' trusted second-in-command, Lieutenant Aria Fairfield, a sharp and determined officer with piercing blue eyes and a demeanor that belied her compassionate nature, clenched her jaw in concentration. As she studied the multitude of radar signatures and plotted their course, she couldn't rid her mind of the victims' faces she had seen throughout her career. The galaxy's conflicts were all too familiar to her, but the prospect of leaving innocents behind was as intolerable as ever. "The distress beacon is weak, Captain," Fairfield remarked urgently as her fingers danced over the controls. "But it's there. Judging by the signal pattern, the shuttle's energy reserves are critically low. They can't maintain this signaling for much longer." Captain Reynolds nodded grimly. "We have to get to them before the Krill THX catches us both. That warship is a colossal brute, heavily armed, and armored like a fortress. Our only advantage is our speed and agility. Prepare for evasive maneuvers once we have the Zorians on board." In the engineering bay below, Chief Engineer Gordy Hastings rallied his team to increase the output from the Resolve's engines. A veteran whose gruff exterior concealed a heart of gold, Gordy's knowledge of the ship's inner workings was unparalleled. He meticulously adjusted the power distribution, channels, and tweaked the intricate lattice of conduits and reactors to give the Resolve every possible ounce of thrust. "Give it all she's got, lads and lasses," Gordy shouted over the hum and whir of the machinery. "We've people out there dependent on us. Their lives hang on our diligence and skill." Meanwhile, the medical bay was prepared for the imminent arrival of the Zorian family. Dr. Helen Alvarez, the ship's chief medical officer, double-checked her surgical instruments and laid out essential medical supplies. Her nimble fingers adjusted the positioning of holographic monitors that would display real-time vitals once the patients arrived. Her mind raced, calculating the best course of action for Zoran's grievous injuries, a life at stake requiring both precision and speed. On the bridge, Captain Reynolds gripped the command console, his eyes locking onto the visual representation of the approaching Krill cruiser displayed on the main screen. The Krill THX was an imposing dreadnought, its hull festooned with menacing weaponry and its engines releasing waves of malevolent energy. This ominous vessel seemed a dark specter of death itself, inexorably closing in on the small lifeboat shuttle that contained Murlock's family. "Lieutenant Fairfield, divert auxiliary power to the shields. Tactical, ready plasma torpedoes, just in case," Reynolds instructed, his voice resonating with the gravity of the situation. Fairfield quickly complied, her fingers tapping a specific combination of command keys. The Resolve shuddered momentarily as additional power surged into its defensive systems, ready to withstand the first onslaught of the Krill weapons if it came to that. "Captain, we'll enter visual range of the shuttle in 2 minutes," Ensign Jalen Murray announced from the navigation console, his youthful face a blend of focus and excitement tinged with apprehension. "Keep her steady, Ensign," Reynolds replied. "This will be a delicate operation. Timing and precision are critical." The moment arrived as the Resolve drifted within a few kilometers of the distressed shuttle. The dilapidated vessel slowly rotated through space, its engines dark save for the occasional flicker of failing power. Murlock's eyes were wide with anxiety as he saw the Earthship approaching from the viewport of the shuttle. Despite his fears, a small glimmer of hope flickered within him. On the Resolve, the air was taut with tension as the crew prepared for the rescue operation. Lieutenant Fairfield executed a final sequence of commands, verifying calculations and performing simulations one last time to ensure accuracy. Failure was not an option in this dire moment. "Initiate docking procedures," ordered Captain Reynolds, his gaze never wavering from the viewscreen. A specialized docking tube extended from the Resolve, its mechanical arm maneuvering with surgical precision towards the shuttle's airlock. As it securely latched onto the distressed vessel, the ship's systems briefly synced, allowing the shuttle's occupants to be monitored from the Resolve. Gordy's voice crackled over the intercom. "Commander, intership connection is stable. We're ready to initiate the transfer." With a nod from Captain Reynolds, the procedure began. The integration sequences rendered the airlock secure, ensuring an airtight environment between the two ships. Lieutenant Fairfield monitored the operation on her display, highlighting the importance of stability and synchronization to the team executing the maneuver. In the shuttle, Murlock, his mother Irina with her ethereal presence and calm demeanor, and the unconscious Zorian were readied for transport by the remaining crew members. Stress and despair hung in the air like an oppressive weight, yet a tentative sense of relief penetrated the emotion as the ship connected. The initial phase of the transfer proceeded smoothly under the expert coordination of Fairfield and her team back on the Resolve. Once the gateway completed its pressurization cycle, the shuttle's door opened. Murlock, maintaining a protective stance over his family, carefully led Irina and Zorian into the bridge connecting them to the hope that awaited on the Resolve. "Move steadily but quickly," instructed Fairfield through the intercom, orchestrating the operation with practiced efficiency. Zorian, suspended on an anti-gravity stretcher, displayed signs of rapidly declining health. His ashen skin and erratic breathing patterns signified the severity of his wounds. Dr. Alvarez waited anxiously with her team to receive the injured alien, ready to immediately administer life-saving measures. As the medical team safely escorted Zorian and Irina to the infirmary, Murlock observed their surroundings in awe and trepidation. The corridors of the Resolve, although modest in their construction, inflicted upon him a sense of archaic yet advanced human engineering, a contradiction that embodied the ship's unique capability and character. His heart pounded in his chest, a war of emotions battling within him as the immediate threat seemed to momentarily subside. Amidst the cold, unforgiving void of space, Resolve's sensors blared urgently, marking the arrival of the Krill THX warship. The vast construct loomed ominously, its angular design a stark contrast to the smoother, more organic lines of the human vessel. The Krill THX ship seemed almost alive with a pulsating, dark energy that hinted at the malevolent intent of its crew. Captain Marcus Reynolds, his brow furrowed in concentration, quickly assessed the situation. The Zorian family hung on a precipice of life and death, not only threatened by their deteriorating physical state but also by the harrowing proximity of their relentless pursuers. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Reynolds shouted, his voice authoritative and calm despite the impending chaos. Resolve's helmsman, Lieutenant Jenna Park, deftly manipulated the controls, engaging the ship's enhanced thrusters to perform rapid, seemingly impossible courses. Resolve twisted and turned, dodging a barrage of plasma bolts emitted from the Krill THX vessel. The attacking beams streaked across the dark tapestry of space, their fiery trails illuminating the tension of the unfolding confrontation. Lieutenant Anthony Vega, the ship's tactical officer, meticulously monitored the enemy's maneuvers. His eyes never leaving the readouts, he barked orders to the weapons team. Resolve's turrets responded with synchronized precision, launching volleys of laser fire and magnetic torpedoes toward the Krill THX ship. The explosions that followed were mere punctuations in the continuous symphony of destruction, a deadly dance for supremacy. Inside Resolve, the sense of urgency was palpable, with the medical bay being particularly frantic. Dr. Eleanor Hayes, the chief medical officer, led her team with unwavering resolve. Murlock stood beside his father Zorian, his eyes wide with fear and hope. Irina, Murlock's mother, clutched his hand tightly, her expression a mixture of resolve and desperation. Zorian's condition was critical, with multiple severe injuries that required immediate and intricate care. Dr. Hayes moved with practiced precision, stabilizing Zorian as best as she could with the ship's advanced medical technology, alert to the fact that every second counted. Murlock's alien features, starkly different from the human crew's, were softened by shared struggle. His large, luminous eyes reflected the glow of the medical instruments, his purple-tinged skin pale and clammy. Irina, though equally alien, exuded a nurturing aura, her composure barely shielding the depths of her anxiety. Despite the unfamiliarity of their physiology, Hayes and her team worked with unflagging determination, using their knowledge and tools to bridge the biological gulf between species. As the battle outside raged on, a new layer of tension was added inside Resolve. The ship's artificial intelligence, Silas, fed continuous updates to Captain Reynolds, highlighting critical damages and power fluctuations. The AI's calm, measured tones contrasted sharply with the chaos, grounding Reynolds in the severity of their situation. Silas, an advanced AI with an almost human-like intuition, was integral to the ship's operations and strategic planning. Its data analysis and predictive algorithms provided invaluable tactical advantages, foreseeing enemy moves and advising on countermeasures with a precision that bordered on preemptive. The Krill THX warship, enraged by Resolve's audacity and resilience, intensified its assault. Its captain, a ruthless figure named Garrick, epitomized the hostility and mercilessness of his race. From the bridge of his colossal vessel, Garrick growled orders to his crew, his clawed hands curling into fists of fury. He viewed the human interference as an insult to their superiority and relished the thought of obliterating Resolve. The Krill's warships were notorious for their raw power and relentless pursuit, their reputation cemented through countless conquests and annihilations. Resolve's hull shuddered under the relentless attacks, alarms blaring as sections of the ship suffered critical hits. Despite their best efforts, the strain on Resolve's defenses was evident. Even with Silas's advanced calculations, the odds were rapidly stacking against them. Captain Reynolds and his crew were pushed to their limits and beyond, the ceaseless barrage demanding every ounce of their resourcefulness and bravery. Amid the chaos, a strategic decision emerged with equal parts desperation and brilliance. Captain Reynolds, after a brief but intense discussion with Lieutenant Vega and Silas, opted for a daring maneuver. They would risk a high-speed, close-range transport of the Zorian family to Resolve. This maneuver was fraught with peril. Any miscalculation could result in catastrophic failure. Yet the alternative, leaving the Zorians to their fate, was inconceivable. Silas coordinated the complex calculations required for this daring move, factoring in the ship's velocity, relative positions, and the hostile environment. Lieutenant Vega synchronized the efforts, ensuring the transport beam would lock on accurately even amidst the turbulence of battle. The engineering team, led by Chief Engineer Priya Patel, rerouted power to the transporters, compensating for the ship's damaged systems and fluctuating energy levels. In the medical bay, Dr. Hayes prepared for the incoming patients. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and fear, each team member acutely aware of the stakes. Murlock and Arena, clinging to the hope presented by their rescuers, held onto Zoran, preparing for the transition that could mean life or death. Initiating transport sequence now, Silas announced, the words reverberating like a solemn decree. In a brilliant flash, the Zorian family materialized on Resolve's transporter pads. The beam transition threw them momentarily off balance, but medical personnel were immediately at their side, stabilizing them for transfer to the infirmary. Simultaneously, Resolve's external defenses intensified. Their maneuverings grew more defensive, each counterattack more desperate yet precise. Captain Reynolds, seeing the successful transport notification, allowed himself a momentary exhale. This small victory amidst the storm was enough to fuel their courage anew. He looked at his crew with a steely gaze that conveyed resolve, pun intended, and determination. "We're not out yet," he stated, his voice carrying the weight of their collective survival instinct. Back in the medical bay, Dr. Hayes and her team worked on Zoran with relentless focus. Advanced diagnostic tools scanned his body, the readouts displaying alien physiology that challenged their understanding but did not deter their efforts. Using a combination of human medical techniques and Zorian biodata provided by Murlock and Arena, Hayes administered treatments calibrated to stabilize Zoran's erratic vital signs. The backdrop of battle continued to loom, the reverberating impacts felt throughout the ship. Yet amidst the adversity, a quiet determination took hold in the medical bay, matched by the strategic tenacity on the bridge. Every individual on Resolve was bound by a shared purpose, a collective endeavor transcending species, a rare and profound unity born in the crucible of crisis. The quiet hum of the Resolve's engines was a stark contrast to the series of frenetic events that had unfolded just hours before. Zoran's condition was stable, his vitals showing signs of gradual recovery, and the crew could finally breathe more freely, if only for a moment. The Resolve's infirmary, a well-equipped sanctuary amidst the vast emptiness of space, buzzed with the diligent activity of medical professionals as they monitored Zoran's health. The sterile white walls and advanced monitoring equipment cast a futuristic glow, reflecting the hope that now lingered in the room. Yet, Captain Marcus Reynolds was far from feeling relieved. A formidable figure, Captain Reynolds stood at the helm of the Resolve, his mind racing with the implications of recent events. The Krill THX had shown no mercy in their relentless pursuit, driven by their insatiable hunger for power and domination. The encounter with the Zorians had been an unexpected detour, but one that stirred something deep within him, a call to action that could no longer be ignored. The galaxy was teetering on the edge of a precipice. The indifference of the omnipotent Council Galactico, the governing body that held authority over the myriad civilizations, had allowed chaos to flourish unchecked. The Council's grandiose chambers, located on the neutral planet of Eldoria, boasted ornate architecture etched with the history of a galaxy-spanning civilization. It was here that Captain Reynolds found himself, standing before the Council's assembled members, an eclectic mix of humanoids and non-humanoids draped in resplendent robes denoting their rank and heritage. The air was thick with tension. Councilors whispered among themselves, their faces marked with curiosity and skepticism. They had rarely been challenged so openly, and certainly not by a human. Captain Reynolds' piercing gaze swept the room, his posture exuding an air of resolute determination. His voice, when he spoke, was a blend of gravity and fervor, echoing through the cavernous hall. Esteemed councilors, today I stand before you not just as a representative of Earth, but as a voice for life in this galaxy. Life that your inaction has placed in grave peril, Reynolds began, his tone unwavering. We have just narrowly escaped the wrath of the Krill THX, savages who threaten to engulf us all in darkness. Yet, what is even more alarming is the silence that met our cries for help. The galaxy looks to this council for leadership and protection. Where were you? Captain Reynolds' words hung in the air, a damning indictment of the council's complacency. He painted a vivid picture of the Zorian family's harrowing ordeal, describing the fire-filled skies of Helianth and the desperate struggle for survival that followed. Each word he uttered was a call to conscience, a reminder of the responsibility that came with power. The councilors shifted uncomfortably. Among them, a figure rose, Councillor Thalern, a venerable Aelorian known for his wisdom and empathetic nature. His ethereal blue skin and elongated limbs bore the grace of his lineage, while his eyes, deep and contemplative, reflected the weight of countless decisions. He addressed the assembly, his voice gentle but firm. Captain Reynolds, your words are not without merit. The actions of the Krill THX demand our scrutiny and response. However, you must understand the complexities we face. Balancing the myriad needs and conflicts of countless species is no small task, Thalern said, his tone measured. Yet, it is evident that in our pursuit of balance, we may have lost sight of the very essence of our duty, to protect and cherish life in all its forms. Captain Reynolds appreciated Thalorn's conciliatory approach, but he knew that words alone would not suffice. The galaxy required action. With renewed vigor, Reynolds articulated a vision of a united front, a coalition of civilizations bound by mutual respect and a shared commitment to safeguarding each other from threats. He spoke of the technological advancements and cultural exchanges that could flourish, envisioning a galaxy where collaboration replaced conflict. "Consider what we could achieve together," Reynolds urged. "We have the technology, the knowledge, and the spirit to create a network of alliance that transcends species and borders. The Krill THX thrive on our division. To defeat them, we must stand united as one galaxy." As Reynolds' impassioned speech drew to a close, the chamber was enveloped in a brooding silence. The counselors deliberated among themselves, weighing the gravity of his proposal. Each face reflected a mix of contemplation and resolve, the magnitude of their decision apparent. The turning point came with the emergence of Counselor Valora, an astute and progressive member from the Moran species, a race renowned for their intricate societal structures and formidable intellect. Valora's multifaceted eyes shimmered with an inner light as she addressed the assembly, her voice resonant and commanding. "Captain Reynolds has laid bare the flaws in our current approach. Inaction is tantamount to complicity. We must forge a new path, one that honors our duty to every sentient being in this galaxy," Valora declared. She proposed the formation of a Galactic Defense Force, a unified military and diplomatic entity with representatives from all member civilizations. The notion was revolutionary. The Council, long accustomed to its bureaucratic mechanisms, was unprepared for the boldness of this proposition. Yet, its necessity was undeniable. After hours of intense debate, the Council reached a consensus. They would heed Reynolds' call and take definitive steps towards the formation of this new coalition. The decision reverberated across the galaxy, a beacon of hope for many who had long felt abandoned. The Zorians, now safe aboard the Resolve, felt the weight of this monumental shift. Murlock, observing from the sidelines, could scarcely believe the transformation that had been wrought through sheer determination and moral clarity. Back on the Resolve, the atmosphere was charged with a newfound sense of purpose. Captain Reynolds and his crew, along with the Zorians, began to forge bonds that transcended the confines of their respective cultures. Murlock, once apprehensive and wary, found himself immersed in the camaraderie and shared mission that now defined their journey. The infirmary became a haven of reminiscence and reflection. With Zoran slowly recuperating, Arena and Murlock shared their stories and traditions with the crew, fostering a deep mutual respect. The blend of advanced Earth technology and ancient Zorian wisdom created a unique synergy, encapsulating the essence of what their newfound alliance could achieve. Yet, amidst the optimism, Reynolds knew that darker challenges lay ahead. The Krill THX would not stand by idly as the galaxy rallied against them. The resolve of the Council Galactico, while significant, was but the first step in a long and arduous journey towards peace and unity. As the Resolve navigated the labyrinthine star systems, the crew began preparations for their next mission. The formation of the Galactic Defense Force required coordination, diplomacy, and relentless effort. The vast marble corridors of the Council Galactico echoed softly with footsteps and hushed voices, a temple of diplomacy and interstellar governance existing beyond the mundane. Situated in the heart of the universe, the colossal construct was an intersection of myriad civilizations. Its architecture was a testament to unity, a blend of designs and materials from countless worlds, signifying a symbol of hope and cooperation. While its grandeur was undeniable, it was not without flaws, having often failed to intervene in crises on the outskirts of the galaxy. Captain Reynolds stood before the Council, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. The chamber was vast, with representatives of dozens of species watching intently. Their varied appearances, tentacled Zagoths, crystalline Terrians, and ethereal lumens, among others, reflected the diversity of the galaxy, a rainbow of sentient existence. The far end of the chamber held the High Council, 5 members whose decisions could alter the fate of planets. Reynolds took a steadying breath and began his address. Honorable Council members, today, I stand not just as a representative of Earth but as a beacon of what we, as interstellar beings, must strive to become. The Zorians were on the brink of annihilation, and while their cries for help went unheard by many, it was the empathy of humans that extended a hand. A faint murmur ran through the assembly as Reynolds' words reverberated. It was a stark reminder of their collective inaction, a call to shed the lethargic apathy that often governed their decisions. The Krill THX pose a substantial threat, not just to one race or one planet, but to the galaxy itself, Reynolds continued. Their ruthless imperialism is a scourge that requires a united front. We cannot afford to remain indifferent. If one of us suffers, we all suffer. The High Council was composed of seasoned diplomats. Leora of the Luminarians, whose luminescent body pulsed with an inner light, Syraxian the Stoneborn of Caldera Prime, Ryla the Krillian with her kaleidoscopic wings, Kar of the Watery Meritans, and finally, Hin of the harmonically inclined Atherai. Leora, a soft-spoken but influential figure, initiated the response. Captain Reynolds, her voice was melodic yet firm, your passion is undeniable, and your actions commendable. However, governance is complex. The Krill THX are vicious, but they are also powerful. Engaging them head-on could provoke further conflict with disastrous consequences. Reynolds countered, his tone unwavering. Avoiding conflict does not ensure peace. It emboldens the aggressor, and inaction cripples us just as much as war. We must create a coalition, a force that not only defends but also deters such tyranny. Murlock and his family watched from a discreet observation deck, their emotions a mix of gratitude, hope, and lingering fear. The healing pod encasing Zoran glowed faintly, working tirelessly to mend his wounds. Irina, Murlock's mother, held his hand tightly, her eyes reflecting both pride and apprehension. The council's debate continued, reflecting the complexity of their decision. Diplomatic nuances clashed with moral imperatives, a battle of ideologies as much as strategy. The chamber buzzed with energy, the representatives' discussions weaving a tapestry of theological doctrines, historical precedents, and futuristic visions. Hours passed, and finally, a consensus was reached. Leora, as spokesperson, addressed the assembly and Reynolds. We, the High Council, are resolved. The plight of the Zorians shall not be ignored. We will establish an interstellar alliance, codenamed the Coalition of Light. It will be a beacon, a signal to all that we shall not tolerate oppression. Further, we will extend our technological and military support to ensure that the Zorians can rebuild and defend themselves. This council will work tirelessly to foster mutual respect and protection among all species. Applause erupted, the sound reverberating off the domed ceilings. It was a momentous occasion, a declaration not just of solidarity but of an evolved ethos among the galaxy's civilizations. Reynolds and his crew felt a wave of relief and accomplishment, their mission one colossal step nearer to fulfillment. Meanwhile, the Resolve's engineers and medical officers, who had been tirelessly working behind the scenes, monitored Zoran's progress. His condition was stabilizing, a testament to the advanced med-tech aboard the Earth vessel, which combined human medical knowledge with Zorian healing herbs gifted in gratitude. Dr. Elaine Harding, the Resolve's chief medical officer, took a moment to brief the family. Zoran's vitals are improving, Dr. Harding reported. The regenerative treatments are working well. It's a blend of our med-tech and your native remedies. I must say, Murlock, your mother's knowledge has been invaluable. Irina's eyes welled up, whispering words of thanks in her native tongue before turning back to her husband, her faith unwavering. As the days progressed, the formalities of the newly formed Coalition of Light unfolded. Representatives from various worlds began communal sessions to draft the framework of their alliance. The grand chambers, once echoing with dissent, now brimmed with discussions of mutual aid, shared resources, and joint defense protocols. The resolve of each species forged new bonds, and the fabric of galactic unity thickened. Murlock, inspired by the unfolding events, dedicated himself to understanding human technologies and strategies. The young Zorian immersed himself in the Resolve's archives when not at his father's side, determined not to be a mere passive observer but an active contributor to this nascent alliance. His mind, naturally adept, quickly grasped concepts ranging from hyperspace navigation to advanced propulsion systems. Captain Reynolds, recognizing Murlock's potential, appointed Lieutenant Kara Thompson to mentor him. Thompson, a seasoned officer with an encyclopedic knowledge of interstellar diplomacy and tactical warfare, took Murlock under her wing, bridging gaps between the two races and ensuring the young Zorian's assimilation into the Coalition's efforts. Under Thompson's guidance, Murlock learned not just technological prowess but the subtleties of human diplomacy, how to negotiate, how to present ideas, and most importantly, how to understand the diverse spectrum of motivations that drove different species. It was a symbiotic exchange. Murlock's insights into Zorian culture and botanical knowledge provided the humans with new avenues to explore in science and medicine. Irina, finding momentary respite, engaged with Resolve's biologists, sharing her vast knowledge of Helianth's flora. Her explanations transcended mere botanical properties, encompassing the spiritual and cultural significance of each plant. This shared knowledge enriched the crew's understanding of Zorian heritage and deepened the respect between the races. Meanwhile, the Krill THX, having detected the formation of the Coalition, were not idle. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.